What is up everyone, it's Master, and I'm back with yet another video. And in this video, I'm actually going to do something different. Like I mentioned before in my previous videos, I'm a huge fan of both horror and metal. And it's kind of like a peanut butter and jelly. They both so go together that a lot of metal fans are huge horror fans, and a lot of horror fans are huge metal fans. But then there's this between this middle line where some horror fans aren't really metal fans, which is something that it's kind of shocking to people, but there's a lot of people who love horror to death, but are not metal fans. And I thought to myself, what would be some bands that, you can get a horror fan become slowly turn into a metal fan? And I came up with 10 bands. So as the title of this video, I'm doing my top 10 metal bands that will metal bands that horror fans will get into. And before I do my top 10, I do have some honorable mentions. First of all, we have Slipknot. Now Slipknot, if you all grew up in the 90s, 2000s, you know Slipknot's probably they're still one of the biggest bands of all time currently. I mean, we have people like Corey Graves, Mick Johnson, the late great Paul Gray, and George Jordison, God rest their soul, great music. I mean, Corey was new metal at the time. We didn't even know what it was at the time. But the thing about Slipknot that fascinates a lot of horror fans like myself is, first of all, their imagery. I mean, it's 9 dudes wearing fucking masks, and they have stated that those masks aren't comfortable. I mean, there's to the point that people like Sean, aka Clown, have said that it's hard to breathe in those masks, and for good measure, because those weren't made to be. They're made to torture their bodies. I mean, to give us this kind of music. So Slipknot is one of those bands that I do recommend horror fans to get into, and there is an album that I would suggest probably be the debut, the subtitle Slipknot. I mean, it has some of the best songs to this day. Songs like Wait and Bleed, Eyeless, Spit It Out, so on and so forth. My other honorable mentions, I forgot to mention, I have maybe 6 to 5 honorable mentions. So my other honorable mention is Gorgoroth. Now Gorgoroth is a Norwegian black metal band that became popular in the late 90s to early 2000s, kind of after the whole Norwegian first wave Norwegian black metal scene, after Euronymous and Varg and so on and so forth. But the thing about Gorgoroth that kind of shocked me the most, and this is one of the main reasons why I chose Gorgoroth in my honorable mentions, is if you don't know about this, Gorgoroth in 2004, they had their infamous Black Mass Kharkov show, and if you see that live show, it's probably one of the most shocking live shows ever to be in stage, because they literally have people, human beings, in their birthday suits, crucified, while wearing some um, black like mask or something on their heads, and a lot of people faded. I mean, there were some people. There was even one lady that I think stated that she almost died by suffocation. Which, my God, especially like I said, the imagery of the face paint and the nails and all that, kind of brutal. But Gorgoroth is one of those bands that I would say to check out just as an oddity, because it's Gorgoroth. My honorable mention is Mayhem. Probably the greatest Norwegian black metal band to ever exist. I mean, from Euronymous to Dead to Hellhammer, so on and so forth. I mean, without Mayhem, Norwegian black metal wouldn't be what it is and became later on. And there is an album, maybe 2 albums, actually 3 albums for you to check out. Of course, one of the main ones is The Mysterious Dom Satanas, probably one of the greatest black metal albums of all time, with also one of the biggest tragedy in creating this album. Another album, more of an EP, is of course their Death Crush EP. Has a bit more of a death metal kind of vibe to it, even though Euronymous has stated that he doesn't like death metal, which I call that bullshit on, because come on, he fucking loves death metal. But being Euronymous, he was kind of a hypocrite, but that's a different story. And of course, I gotta talk about the Dawn of the Black Hearts EP. Now I don't know if I'm gonna put the actual image because I don't want to get this album to be demonetized or whatever. But just by the look of that picture, you can tell that Mayhem was a fucked up band. Not really Mayhem, but it was a Euronymous for taking a picture of Dead's corpse right before he shot himself. Dead shot himself in the head with a fucking rifle, with a fucking gun. The balls for somebody to do that? Well, the balls for somebody to do that too. The first thing, to do that and not call an ambulance or anything, first at all, I need a camera and take this picture. And of course, it leaked online and so on and so forth. But that's, again, it's a band that I do recommend for horror fans to at least try to get into. Another honorable mention, and this is the most recent one, and thanks to my buddy Rafael, who actually told me about this band, and I didn't know who they were until recently, and the band is Ice Nine Kills. Now, Ice Nine Kills is a band out of Boston who combine metalcore, post-hard rock, heavy metal, and punk elements to create this amazing stage presence that I've never seen Ice Nine Kills, but I've heard from a lot of people that they do have they do bring, you know, their balls to their performance. And there was an album that I will recommend y'all to listen from 9 Inch Nails. Will probably be their latest one, the Silver Scream 2, Welcome to Horrorwood, which, I mean, it has songs dedicated to Chucky, which is probably one of my favorite slashers of all time. Songs dedicated to the Pet Sematary, to American Psycho, to Hellraiser, to Hostel, The Evil Dead, so on and so forth. It's one of those bands that, you know, will later in popularity will get popular, and it's a band that I do recommend y'all to check out. And my last honorable mention, I gotta mention Marilyn Manson. Now, Marilyn Manson per se isn't really, I want to say, in the horror genre, but the presence, I mean, if you look back in the 90s and early 2000s, the way that he would, you know, his presence would horrify out so many adults, so many parents, to the point that they would forbid their children to not go and see a Marilyn Manson show because he thought he was literally the Antichrist. And there was an album that I do recommend y'all to check out. It's, of course, his infamous Antichrist Superstar. I mean, you have so many great songs from that album, from, of course, The Beautiful People to Little Horn, the title track, so on and so forth. And from first-hand seeing Manson live, it's an amazing show that he puts on. So if you ever have a chance to see Marilyn Manson live, I seriously recommend you all check him out. So those are my honorable mentions. Now let's get into the top 10. At number 10, I have Lordy. Now, Lordy's a band that I'm not really too familiar with. I know who they are because, of course, I've seen a lot of people talk about them. But Lordy are a Finnish band from, I want to say, in the early 90s, mid 90s, around there. And of course, they have this, you know, they wear makeup to the stage, and their performances are so fucking amazing that, you know, you will really get into Lordy because of the image alone. But other than that, I mean, the songs are killer. They have really great albums. And there's an album that I do recommend y'all to check from Lordy, will probably have to be the Acropolis. I mean, the Acropolis is probably my favorite Lordy album to listen to once in a while. When you had the infamous Hard Rock Hallelujah, the Monstrous Ballad Songs in Hell, which is probably one of my favorite Lordy songs, to, I don't know, Good to Be Bad, Who's Your Daddy, and so on and so forth. If I ever get a chance to see Lordy live, I'd probably go check them out because just by the image alone and the presence they bring and the atmosphere and all that they bring to the stage, I would seriously like to see them one day. At number 9, we have fucking Slayer. That's it, just for Slayer. I mean, when you have albums like fucking Rain in Blood, Seasons of the Abyss, which Dead Skin Mask is about the infamous Ed Gein serial killers, if you didn't know about. But again, at the time, Slayer was, they were still one of the biggest thrash metal bands of all time, next to something like Metallica, Megadeth, and Anthrax. But Slayer was always the one of the big four was the most extreme band because, of course, their tempos, the crazy guitar riffs, David Lombardo's drumming was outstanding, and of course, it inspired a lot of black metal bands and death metal bands from the 80s. To this day, it's to inspire so many bands and so many people that Slayer is one of the bands that a horror fan should definitely check out. And like I said, almost like, of course, Rain and Blood, when you have a song like Angel of Death to start the album with the infamous Tamaraya scream that I feel that he's just somebody just punched him in the balls and gave that infamous scream, which was done in one take, which is kind of hard for somebody to do that infamous scream. I've done it. It ain't easy. Also, when you have songs like Rain and Blood, Reborn, Aggressive Performer, Altar of Sacrifice, so on and so forth, you gotta check out Ultras of Madness and the whole Slayer catalog. Just try to avoid Diablos in Música. You'll see why. I mean, even though Diablos in Música has a killer ass album cover that reminds me a bit of Pinhead from Hellraiser, just a tiny bit. At number 8, we have Cradle of Filth. Now, Cradle of Filth is one of those bands that gets a lot of shit, which I don't know why they get a lot of shit. It's always been this debate between if you're a Cradle of Filth fan or a Demon Borgir fan. I personally love both, but if I had to choose, I'd probably go for Cradle of Filth because I've seen Cradle of Filth live once, front row back in 2018. It's probably one of the best shows I've ever been to. But, I mean, come on, when you have black metal, gothic metal, symphonic metal combined into this band from England, and of course, we're talking about Cradle of Filth, the band that gave us the infamous Jesus shirt, which I'm not going to mention the whole name because I don't like saying that word in my videos or anything like that, but yeah, there's so many great Cradle of Filth albums that you gotta check out. Of course, Midland, probably their most infamous album, their latest one, which was a really good album. But to me, if there was a Cradle of Filth album that I would recommend you all to check out, Cruelty and the Beast, an album dedicated to the infamous Elizabeth Bathory. Probably one of the greatest figures in history that has inspired so many metal bands. Of course, Cradle of Filth, Bathory, Venom, so on and so forth. When you have songs like Once Upon a Tortoise, Bathory Alright, which my god, seeing that song live was fucking amazing. Beneath the Howling Stars, Portrait of the Dead Countess. I can go on and so on for about Cradle of Filth, but check Cruelty and the Beast and also check Midland, which is a great album too. So, but for my money's worth, Cruelty and the Beast is probably the album for you to check out. At number 7, we have Gwar. Now, Gwar is one of those bands that, to this day, I have had a hard time to get into. I mean, I know who they are because it's fucking War. But, you know, in terms of me knowing a bit about them, like, I'm not much of a big War fan. But I can appreciate what they've done for the genre. I mean, of course, they're heavy, punk, bit of a crossover trash. But, of course, like I mentioned with bands like Lordy, their costumes and all that are the things that kind of pop out the most. But there was an album, maybe perhaps, that I could probably recommend. Would probably have to be one of the earliest albums, like maybe something like try to remember the fucking name of it. Something like maybe Scumduct of the Universe is probably one of their best albums today. And my god, I mean, if you ever had a chance to see Gwar live, I've heard that it's probably one of the best experiences to ever, you know, ever be. And you know, if you sing War and like what you saw, I mean, let me know in the comments because I would really like to check out Gwar live if I ever get to see them Gwar live, because I've heard that their live performance is amazing. So let me know. At number 6, it's a bit of a tie because it's kind of the same band, even though it's only one member but at the beginning was a band. I'm of course talking about White Zombie / Rob Zombie. Now with White Zombie, of course, they started out as a band, of course, the infamous Rob Zombie boss. So you have, if I can remember the rest of the members, when we have somebody with, it's White Zombie. I mean, of course, we have albums like La Exorcista Diabolica, which I do have it right here, that inspires so many goth metal albums, industrial metal albums. and so on and so forth. I mean, it's one of those bands that you can put on Halloween and, of course, jam into it. But, of course, Rob Zombie will later move out of White Zombie and, of course, create his own band, Rob Zombie. And, of course, that took him to the whole fucking stratosphere. When you have, I mean, first of all, for him to be a director, a horror director, he has directed movies like the Halloween remakes, the 2000s versions. He has directed House of a Thousand Corpses. He has directed 31. He has directed so many underrated horror movies that, you know, y'all should check out, because I think Rob Zombie gets a lot of shit, which, you know, it's Rob Zombie. What more can you want from Rob Zombie? But if there's an album that I do recommend y'all to listen, if there was an album, and I think the most obvious one, probably his most infamous album today that he's ever recorded, will probably have to be Hillbilly Deluxe. Of course, when you have songs like Dracula, Living Dead Girl, of course, from Bride of Chucky that came out, Spooky Baby, Call of the Zombies, Return of the Phantom Stranger. What more can you want from that? It's fucking Rob Zombie. At number 5, we have the Misfits. Now, whichever the Misfits I'm actually referring to, I'll actually refer to the entire Misfits, both the Michael Graves and Glenn Danzig era, because both of them have really good albums, and the whole band in general kind of started more of a punk band at first, but it combined horror elements, and of course, you know, the speed and all that, of course, the imagery, of course, the freaking skull, their logo, the crimson, and so on and so forth. But there was an album or albums to recommend you from the Graves era. It's tough because I personally love the Graves era more than the Glenn Danzig era. But I think the most two ones I have to recommend are American Psycho and Famous Monsters. And I have seen Michael Graves live, I think twice already. Really cool guy to talk to. Really, you know, it was an amazing guy to talk to. I was able to talk to him for a couple of minutes. Great, amazing guy. Cool guy. And of course, from the Danzig era, will have to be probably Astros. I'm trying to remember the name of the album here. Give me just a second. Walk Among Us. Which, I mean, it's Misfits. I mean, one of the most iconic hardcore punk horror fans ever. At number 4, we have Ghost. If you have Ghost, you have everything. Of course, Tobias Forge and the rest of the Nameless Ghouls, they combine 70s hard rock metal with a bit of a twist, their own twist, and kind of make it their own sound. Of course, when you have a figure as Papa Emeritus, any of the Papas, either 1, 2, 3, or the current 4, or even something like that as Cardinal Copia, an undead Papa. Well, how much metal can you get in an undead Papa? Literally right there. But there was an album that I'd recommend y'all to listen to. Will probably have to be their most infamous one, Melioria. When you have songs like Cerise, He Is, Moby Dust, Dios in Absentia, my God, it's a banger. And if you've never seen Ghost live, I've heard that it's a really good band to watch, which I would love to see one day. But, you know, if you like horror and metal, like I said, with Ghost is one of those bands that would really, 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 really go for your taste. At number 3 is a death metal band, and I could have gone with so many death metal bands. I could have gone with Death, I could have gone with Obituary, I could have gone with Deicide, but I went probably the most logical one to ever go, and that is Cannibal Corpse. Probably one of the most controversial bands ever, from their lyrics to their fucking album covers. When you have something like Eaten Back to Life, Tomb of the Mutilated, Butcher the Birds, The Bleeding, Vile, I can go on so forth. But if you're a hardcore horror fan and you love brutality, fast, gruesome, bloody, Cannibal Corpse is your band. And like I said, you can go through any single Cannibal Corpse album. It's heavy, fast, gory, disgusting, everything you want in horror. At number 2, we have Alice Cooper. Of course, the godfather of everything shock rock, shock metal, whatever you want to call it. Without Alice Cooper, a lot of shock rock acts like Kiss, Marilyn Manson, would not be what they are today. Of course, you can go with any single Alice Cooper album. You can go from his solo career, from Billion Dollar Babies to something in the later career, from Trash to so on and so forth. But if you want a one-on-one lesson with Alice Cooper and how to shock people, go watch the interview that he did with Sam Don and about the infamous chicken chicken incident, which that got a lot of publicity back in the 70s, and it made Alice Cooper a bigger star than he will later become. Because again, shock rock, and of course the stage, of course, every single time, from bloody baby dolls to the snake to him getting his head being cut off to monsters and all that. I mean, it's a horror nightmare. It's a horror nightmare come true. And of course, my number one, it has to be. If you all been going through the list, there's only one name I haven't mentioned because I saved it for the last. And I'm talking about the one, the only, King Diamond. What more can I say about King Diamond as I've been said before? And you can also add maybe Merciful Fate to the list, because I think Merciful Fate and King Diamond, even though King Diamond has been in Merciful Fate and King Diamond back and forth, King Diamond, the band, has gotten more recognition because, of course, it's more horror-oriented metal concept albums, of course, from albums like Damn, The Conspiracy, fucking Abigail. What more can I say? Probably one of the greatest concept albums of all time, and an album that I try my best to put on every single spooky month, maybe around October, when you have songs like Funeral, The Possession, the title track, A Family Ghost. I could go on so far about King Diamond, but if you like horror and you like metal, and there's one band or individual that you gotta know and listen to, King Diamond is the one person that I highly, 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 highly recommend y'all to check out. And that does it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, do all those fun things. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram, which I'll link down below. And I'm still thinking of new ideas to give you new videos, because I have a lot of ideas. Like for this one, I just came on the fly, and I was like, I want to combine more metal and horror related topics. So, maybe I'll probably do a list about maybe top horror movies, top 10 horror movies to get into metal fans, because there's a thin line that horror fans really don't like metal, or metal fans don't like horror, which is again something that blows my mind. But I have a lot of ideas that I want to bring you guys out. I am still trying to figure it out. I do also want to bring you album reviews. I am still trying to see which album review I'm going to do first. I might do Emulation, I don't know, but we're still a long way to go. But I hope you guys still along for the ride and for the amazing stuff I'm going to bring to you, once I get more into this YouTube. But until then, stay metal.